Hey you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and along with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing?
I am doing okay. It has been a very long week for me. I actually lost track of what day was what. I had a last second do a extension on my taxes today because whoops, my
Yep.
dad had surgery last week and just got out today. So it's just been kind of a fun life stress thing happening at the same time. But he's home now, and so far everything is good. So it's sunny skies ahead. It's just been a hell of a week. How about you? How
Well,
you
I'm
doing?
uh, you know, nothing super new to report. Just been delivery driving basically as much as I can to make the money that I need to make to live, and then also just like have a little bit of luxury every now and then. Now that the latest Magic set has come out, that came out this past Friday. It is like basically all full steam ahead for the Final Fantasy set,
Yep,
and
that
so
countdown's starting.
yeah, I'm kind of like preparing to ball out on that once the middle of June hits. So it's just kind of like prepping for that, and again some other things. So yeah, but I'm glad that your dad is good in all in every way that he can, considering. So that's
Considering, yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, like when you're having a serious major surgery, like it sounds like it was best case scenario that he walked, and what he walked out of. So
Yeah, it's
that's
about like there's still some rocky stuff ahead, but it's
sure.
so far so good. Like there's a lot of a lot of worse ways this one could have gone. It was a pretty in-depth one. So
Yeah.
uh
I mean, I get it. I,
yeah,
I definitely get it.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, this is party chat. We got a bunch of things to talk about. Going into the news. Before we do that, we have some housekeeping to take care of. If you've been enjoying the show, please go to the podcast service of your choice and give us a 5-star rating. It helps with exposure and growing the platform. We really appreciate it. Also, going to YouTube, our YouTube channel, Party Chat: a JRPG podcast, giving us pressing the subscribe button there helps us get exposure, go a long way. You can also support us financially if you'd like on Patreon, where we have a few different tiers that give different rewards, like getting the episode a day early, monthly Q&A where you can ask us a bunch of questions for us to answer, and Campfire Catalog, which is our JRPG book club podcast. And the current game that we're playing is The Legend of Dragoon, which is my first time playing. I believe this is Kevin's first time playing in a while. So, you know, uh, uh,
You
uh,
earlier today was I played it over half my life ago. Like it's
mhm.
been a minute. It was very early 2000s the last time I played it. So all the way through at least. I think I've started it up a couple times randomly, but like a real push it's been a while.
Yeah, I really want to talk about this game already. From the like, I think I've played about 5 hours at this point, but I just am gonna have to wait until good old Campfire Catalog. So, if you want to hear our thoughts on that, go to our Patreon. And
Also,
lastly, go ahead.
I was just gonna throw out, honestly, great time to also just like get in on the base level to join the Discord because we've been having some really fun chats with other folks starting to play the game. And oh man, does that translation just hit? Like there is, we had some good screenshots posted earlier of making the way through Legend Dragoon and just, yep, that's a translation. That is a way to put those words into English.
I want to share my thoughts on that, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
hold off. I'm gonna hold off.
I know. Oh, I know.
But lastly, you can go to please go to youtube.com/Kevin Kenson and subscribe to his channel over there, as he's trying to get to 1 million subs before the end of this year. And it is the year of the Switch 2. So he is going to, and has already started to release a a lot of videos, on the Switch 2 and the future of that platform. So, yeah, cool stuff. But yeah, so we're gonna get into the news for this week. I think the most notable thing to come out of the past week is that Xbox has officially confirmed that they are having a showcase similar to what they have done in past years. It's going to be like a general showcase for the Xbox platform, and then there's going to be a direct that is a like exclusively focusing on the Outer Worlds 2.
Hell yeah.
Um, you know, uh, not a JRPG, but something that's just worth mentioning. The first Outer Worlds, solid. You know,
Solid.
I thought it was solid. I didn't lift my skirt up or anything like that, but I enjoyed it. But and I do love Obsidian. Like they are definitely one of my favorite Western developers. I haven't played Avowed yet, but Avowed came out. That was well received. So yeah, cool to see them going for the two for this year, seemingly.
Yeah, back to
Um,
back. Both
yeah.
similar
So
styles too. First person view. I mean, obviously fantasy versus sci-fi, but still.
yeah. Um, the showcase is going to take place on June 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that would be 1 p.m. for Eastern. The after that, y'all got to look that up yourselves. I don't know all the time zone. uh, but yeah, so that's exciting. And I think the one thing that we got to talk about here, we're getting the Persona 4 remake announcement at this, right? Like we talked about it before. They trademarked it or something like that, or trademarked or something like that.
Website.
Um,
There was a website
oh, they did.
registered for P4R, which there's
Yes,
not a lot of other ways to interpret that acronym.
yes, and they did that the same thing with Persona 3 Reload 3 months before it was revealed at the Xbox showcase that year. So I think it's fair to uh, assume that we are going to get Persona 4 rerun or rewind at this showcase. What are your thoughts on that, Kev?
I think there certainly is a good shot. Like I don't know if I would say guaranteed, but like it would make sense.
Sure.
There's a decent gap between P3R and now Metaphor.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'd say there's a good shot that we get a reveal at SGF with a release date like quarter 1 next year, kind of do a similar timeline to what Reload had. Uh, I'm
Yeah.
very curious to see because like I think what's interesting about getting a remake like this uh, is what is going to be left untouched and what is going to be changed, right? Like with Reload,
Mm,
we got to see what content was there, and then they ended up not bringing back the Persona 3 portable FemC route.
mhm.
With Persona 4, I feel like there's a good shot that, like, story content wise, everything that was added in Golden is going to make its way back. But
Yes.
maybe there's some additional tweaks to that. Maybe, there's definitely room for tweaks to the gameplay aspects and getting it more stylistically in line with 3 Reload and 5. Uh,
Mhm.
one thing I've seen a few people hope for, and I don't think this is going to happen. I think it's more likely here than it was in 3 for storytelling
Yes.
purposes. But
Mhm.
something that I've seen a lot of people argue for is wanting to have dungeons redesigned to be actual unique designs like in 5. And like I think that fits in 4 more, but I don't think they're going to do that. I just there's an extra workload that comes with that I don't see happening.
Yeah, it definitely makes more sense in 4 than 3 because 3 is like a giant tower,
Yeah,
while 4, like, yes, the TV, the Shadow Realm, I forgot what it's exactly called, um, is a space that you exist in before you go to the different dungeons, and those different dungeons they're different, right? Like you have like the castle and there's a variety of different settings in that sense.
right.
Um so it would make sense. I don't think that's going to happen either. And I also want to say in general, I think this Persona 4 remake happened a lot quicker than I think most people would have thought. Like
Yeah.
I did not think that we would get it two wait. Yeah, 2 years
Two years after.
later.
I am curious how long it's actually been in development because P3R leaked quite a long time ago. Like there were screenshots
Mm.
of that game, and I want to say like
It,
22, maybe
it was the year
23.
before it was the year before it was announced. Yeah.
I think it was even longer. But yeah, like so, like I wonder how long. Like it's possible that 4 remake, maybe started around the same time or after. Maybe it was developed, parallel for a little bit.
Mm.
Because especially being this close apart, I don't think it was like, all right, reload shipped. Let's start making P4R. If it
No.
is actually something coming out next year, it's probably been in the works for at least 3 years total. I would say like they had to have been like getting on that sooner.
Yeah, I definitely think that they started it not so far after they started Persona 3. And I think it's because like they just know that people will show up for that,
Yeah,
right? They don't have to like take a risk, kind of like what Falcom is doing with Trails in the Sky first chapter. Like I think that they said like, "Oh, well, if this one performs well, then we'll probably remake more." I do think that is just them hoping that more people pick up the game. I definitely think at least the first two games are being remade. I don't think you can remake the first one without the second one.
there's definitely
But
probably some
even
like groundwork and pre-planning ready for it. I'm sure. Like, there's no way they're doing like
yeah,
a fresh start, like waiting that long. But I'm sure there's like a point where like, okay, where is it that we spend the most money on production? We'll wait to signal that once the first money starts rolling in. Maybe I don't know.
yeah. I honestly think that it's already in the works. Like it's probably pretty well into development. And we'll just kind of see where that goes. But we have more to talk about with Trails in the Sky in the future, or like later in this episode. But yeah, I think Persona 4 is not a guarantee, but it is like the one thing that I am expecting in a real way from this showcase. Is there anything else that like kind of comes to mind for you that you think that, oh, this might show up here?
I mean, okay, so if we're talking from a JRPG standpoint, I mean, the number one company is Sega Atlas. Um,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think there's a possibility of whatever the next Yakuza project is could make an appearance. After all, we
Mm.
did get Infinite Wealth at a Xbox showcase. So there's always that possibility. Whatever is next on the horizon, whether that's another beat 'em up style or another RPG style entry. Um, Again, Persona, obviously. Like I
Mhm.
think that's the big one to expect from Atlas side of things. Past that, it's tough. I think one thing we could see maybe is Square Enix showing up with port reveals because there's been a lot of talk about
Sure.
opening up stuff like 7 remake and rebirth and 16 and bringing those all over to Xbox, and so that could
Mhm.
certainly be something to do at a major showcase to really try and show like a strong sense of support there. And who knows? Maybe there's even another project in the works that is not an Xbox exclusive thing, but they drop the reveal there too to like really try to like this has happened a couple times in the past. I think the last time was like 2019 at Xbox's own event where they really tried pushing like yes, like we're working with Square Enix. Look at all these games coming. We're getting all the Final Fantasies. We're getting all the Kingdom Hearts. And if Square's interested in bringing more stuff regularly to Xbox moving forward, it would make sense to do it at that event. I think. Um,
Yeah.
Beyond that, who knows? I feel like Bandai Namco sometimes drops not trails, Tails stuff. It's like maybe the Tales of the Abyss remaster. We know they've just
Mm.
been on a row of like doing those remasters. There's been lots of rumor and talk of an actual new entry again, finally. So like that could make an appearance because that is another like I feel like Sega Atlas is like the safe default, but Bandai Namco definitely has done a lot of Xbox marketing as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I didn't really even think about Tails. I do think it's about time now for a new entry. We've gotten a lot of remasters since then, since the Rise came out. Um, I I'm curious. Yeah, I can definitely see it showing up at the Xbox showcase. I don't know if we'll go as far as to like we'll get like a day one Game Pass type deal.
Sure.
That would be cool. It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't expect it. And I think that because yeah, we've gotten Tales kind of everywhere. Like we got the Grace's F was revealed at a direct, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
and then the Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn, I think is what it's called, the DLC for that. That was revealed at like a state of play or a PlayStation type thing. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that we get something Tales now at Xbox. Um, and yeah, Square is. I feel like that Square's willing to give Xbox the more kind of like B tier stuff to promote, like they did that with Visions of Mana
Sure.
last year. So that that all makes sense. I think we'll see more of Ninja Gaiden 4. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that'll have a presence there. Um, but outside of that, yeah, I think again, a lot of the mainstream JRPG stuff is kind of like a giant question mark still this year. We know we're getting Dragon Quest 1 and 2. It's likely we're going to get an announcement for Persona 4 remake, but outside of that, it's like, we're just kind of waiting and to see what's coming.
Yeah, there's a couple series
And
regular stuff.
Trails, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say Trails as well. And then like, you know, I think there's a couple semi-regular series where it would make sense to maybe get an announcement. You know, Yakuza did already have a release this year with Pirate Yakuza, but that doesn't
Mhm.
rule out a second release within the same year. They've done it before, and they're really trying to have a very regular release schedule. They did tease some games back at the Game Awards as well. We could get updates on.
Yeah,
Um,
I was about to say, I would really love if we got a update on Project Century.
yep,
That'd be really cool.
it'd be really neat to see more of that, and to also see if they could solidify, what connection there is, if any, because there's definitely some stuff in that trailer
Yes.
that I associate with Like a Dragon, but could
Yes.
also just be classic them reusing assets. So, um, yeah, I think there's a couple other like things out there, but as far as stuff we know happening this year, stuff that you can kind of set your watch to and assume, uh, it might be kind of a drier year for the genre, honestly. Like we've had a great start to the year. I think there's plenty of like ports that are going to happen throughout.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, we're just about to get Lunar. Um, I think there's more stuff like that on the horizon. But as far as like, brand new big IP releases, uh, yeah, who knows for the rest of this year? Really, it's kind of a weird blank slate at the moment.
Yep. Well, we'll see.
Perfect time for a new Tales to drop because, no offense to Tales, I love Tales, but I don't. I think Tales is sort of like always second fiddle to a lot of other franchises for people. And so if it's not like going head to head with like a new Final Fantasy or a new Persona or something, it's like, hey, seize the moment.
That's fair though. That's a fair observation. I never really thought about it that way, but once you say it, it's like, yeah, no, like if there's like a new Final Fantasy or like basically any of the other major JRPGs, like I'm gonna prioritize that over a new Tales game.
Yeah, and again, I love Tales, and there
Yeah.
are those people out there that also that is their number one franchise. They're going to stick to it, but I would say on average, out of like the established long running IPs, it's not one of the higher ups.
Yeah, and like again, I agree with you. I also love Tales. Like I feel like for most people, they'll be like, yeah, Symphonia and like Vesperia are like, some A to S tier JRPGs. But then outside of that, it's kind of like, most people think that, yeah, that was a good game, or like that was a great game, but it's not like it just hasn't had the, I guess, like the consistency of like greatness, I guess, to really prop its name up next to those franchises, even though again, still great games.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, it's just not Final Fantasy, it's not Dragon Quest, it's not Kingdom
yeah.
Hearts.
I would say it's not even like Xenoblade, where like even if it's not like the top selling one, that fan base is dedicated.
Do you
Like,
think that here's the thing though that I'll say about that. I love Xenoblade.
yeah,
I think that part of that is because it's under Nintendo.
mm. Hmm.
I think that it being a Nintendo exclusive and it being like, like Fire Emblem is technically a JRPG, but it's a tactics game. It's a little bit different. this being like the JRPG like series for Nintendo, that goes a long. I think that goes a long way. I know that there are people that Xenoblade. A lot of people that are big in the Xenoblade camp, like either they played Xenogears and then they like played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 back on the Wii, or they started with Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii and they were just like so profound by they found that game so profound that they just like are diehards now.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. But I do think that there is also an audience of people that play Xenoblade games, like even me, like, and I I really like it, but I also don't know if I would have gotten into it as quickly as, or to the extent that I did if it wasn't like the first party Nintendo JRPG. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. I think a large part of it too is that the real blow up point for that franchise was 2 on the Switch. Like, I mean, like
Yes.
Xenoblade had its fans before. There were people that enjoyed it on the Wii. There was a whole campaign to get it out here. People, some people bought the port to the 3DS, but 2 is absolutely, I think, the explosion point where like, oh, it has a fan base now. Like, there is a
Yeah.
true dedicated audience for this that was not really there before. And so yeah, that 100% makes sense. I don't know if it's necessarily because of like considering it Nintendo branding, but absolutely the popularity of the Switch and how much of a impact 2 specifically made, like that grew a new audience right there for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think it is the only reason, or maybe not even the main reason, but I think it is a significant
Yeah,
reason as to why. So,
certainly.
um yeah. Um so Kevin,
Yeah.
we have a bit more new Switch 2 news. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pass that over to you, and as you know, you're the Switch 2 guru, and you can enlighten us on what's come out.
Yeah, honestly, not a ton. I feel like there's
Hmm.
been a lot more focus on clarifications this past week, even though they're not really from Nintendo directly, in like the traditional sense. But more information coming out from some of the hands-on demos, some more clarifications about a couple things. For one, we still don't know the pre-order date for Switch 2 just yet, but we have some rumors floating around. There's been talk of Canada specifically being the 23rd, which a lot of people are hoping that would mean the same for the US. But that's kind of just grasping at straws for the moment. I feel like we're going to get confirmation ahead of release. Like, I don't think pre-order is going to be like a shadow drop thing. But definitely, I think everyone's trying to keep their eyes open for like, when is this happening? Like, what's going on? And while we touched on it a little bit last week, news broke like literally right after we recorded about the tariffs going on pause. So that is a great sign for not getting a price raise right now. Part of the problem is who actually knows anything about how this stuff is going to get implemented because it's been so wild card left and right. And I think Nintendo's even kind of like, let's wait another week. Let's see what they say. But assuming the 90-day 10% thing happens, uh, or at least, stays true, I think that's safe to say that the Switch 2 price is not going to jump up just yet. We might see a raise some months later, because we're already seeing that happen with other companies. Like PlayStation 5s are going up in price in Europe, as well as I think like New Zealand and Australia. I don't think we're that far behind, especially once a lot of the tariff stuff starts to get in place. But as of right now, there hasn't been a whole lot of hard confirmation on that stuff, but at least there's been progress. So hopefully, next week we'll have like actual definitive, okay, this is what's happening. A couple other interesting things. We got a little bit more information on Game Share. This is the new feature that's similar to the DS download play, where you can share games. What's interesting, they did highlight this in the presentation, but I feel like it's also lost on a few people that you're able to do this with regular Switches. Like, it's not a feature on a Switch to share to other people, but a Switch 2 can share a game to like regular Switch as well. And this is including things like Split Fiction, which is not going to be a Switch 2 game or a Switch 1 game. Let me see. We actually had a temporary list for now of what's coming to it. Uh, this is absolutely going to be something that expands over time, but we know we're getting Split Fiction. I always forget the name of it. The 51 Clubhouse card game.
Oh, Clubhouse 51 games or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
Clubhouse 51 games. Mario Party. Yeah, we got a good small list going, and hopefully we see like a strong solidification at launch of like here's a whole bunch of stuff. But definitely multiplayer focused stuff is where that comes up because that's why you'd want to use that feature. I think Split Fiction's a really good case for it too, because like, you know, that game is built for you have to do two-player co-op. Like this is the way you play the game, and bringing it to a handheld device doesn't really make a lot of sense if like the only option is to do it in docked mode. So having that option to go like, hey, I play on my Switch, you play on your Switch, and we each get a dedicated screen for a character, like that's great. Like that's awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, neato stuff. And that's honestly it for like the hard info. I mean, again, we've gotten a couple other impression things. I've seen a lot of people talking about how much they like the mouse feature. The only thing being that like extended play could definitely be a little uncomfortable because teeny tiny body and needing to hit the ABXY buttons. Um, but otherwise, yeah, I think we're just kind of waiting right now for solidification on actual release plans and then start to get some steady info drop after that again.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm. That's a good list of games that are gonna get that feature, and I I don't know. I personally don't see myself using it a whole lot, but it is a cool thing that exists, and I'm happy that it exists.
If I was like, if it was like high school me, I would be using that a lot. Adult me,
Yes.
definitely less. Like I think,
Yes.
you know, I'm playing with a lot more people that are not local to me. But if I was like still with like a regular local crew and we like met up and hung
Hmm.
out in person way more, like 100% that would be getting use. One
Yeah.
other thing, real quick, and this, you know, we touched on this last week, but just to say that there is additional supporting evidence. There have been more and more cases of people asking Nintendo about the game card situation for Switch 2 edition games. And it does sound more and more like, even though we're not getting like the actual official Nintendo account to just make a freaking clarification statement, there's been plenty of emails that are at least saying, yes, everything is on the cart. You do not need to you know, invest it. You don't. It's not a download code. So, you know, better than Game Key. I still wish it didn't have all that text on the front of the box, but it'll do.
Yes. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Cool. Well, some other news that's worth mentioning is that Trails in the Sky first chapter is getting a new localization. Um, when this game was announced, for those that don't know, historically, Xseed was the publisher that localized the original Trails in the Sky, all the way up to, so it was like Trails in the Sky, first chapter, second chapter, the third, and then the first two Cold Steel games. All of those were done under Xseed, and then eventually NIS America took over. And the localizations that Xseed did are really, really good localizations. And so a lot of people are a bit concerned because of this news that came out. Came out in a uh, I believe it came out in a press release. And there's a statement from Gung Ho, the publisher for First Chapter, saying, quote, Trails in the Sky First Chapter features a new localization, ensuring an authentic and engaging experience that honors the original Japanese text. Fans can look forward to experiencing classic moments with dialogue that captures both the heart and charm of the Trails series in English, German, French, or Spanish. For those who prefer the Japanese audio, a Japanese voice option will also be available, giving players the freedom to choose how they want to experience the game. End quote. So when the game was revealed and people were uh I th- I believe they eventually showed like a little bit of the game in English. Um and when people were comparing it to the game to the original English release, people kind of came to the conclusion that they were just using Xseed's script
Mhm.
because it was like one for one at those points. Seemingly that's not the case anymore. Uh, as someone who absolutely loves this game and thinks it has a lot of like charm in its writing and is really funny, um, I'm a bit worried. Like
Yeah,
I don't know for certain. Like it's like kind of just like a wait and see moment.
sure.
But
Let, let
I,
me
I'll,
let
go
me
ahead.
pass a theory by you because I don't know. Again, I'm trying to make this the year where this changes, but everyone needs to stop releasing games every 2 weeks so I can actually put the time in. Um, I don't have the deepest Trails knowledge, but aside from yourself, another person who I know and am mutuals with that talks about this a lot is James Galizio from RPG Site, and he had an interesting read on the disclosure on that news, uh, basically saying that he thinks uh, that they're hyping this up a little bit, or maybe trying to make it out to seem larger than it is, when what's really happening is there are new translations that are for the other languages, because it is getting new localizations outside of ones that previously existed.
Mm,
And yes, the English one might be changed, but it's more of a re-edit punch up of what Exceed did. Like, it's going to be, 95% the same thing, but they're going to re-update a few specific lines for whatever reason, whether that's because of, oh, it's maybe a little more accurate to do this, or just whatever.
mm.
What are your thoughts on that as a possibility?
I mean, that makes sense. I could definitely see that happening. I and now I kind of wish that they were a little bit more clear about that. Just like, hey, like these localizations are basically for like the other languages that
Right.
and not English. Um, but yeah, and I will say, like, despite how I like this game, it's weird too, but there are there are some things in the game that are a bit bad taste.
Sure.
Um and from certain characters, and
Do you know if those
which is
are localization specific, or is that like, no, that's what they say in
I
Japanese?
I don't know.
Gotcha.
I will say that there is some like I don't want to go as far to say as like homophobic, but
Sure.
there is like this kind of like weird vibe about like boy on boy, girl on girl, like like this type of thing sometimes. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
very few moments, but it's just like it's interesting because like the person that normally says it is like probably the most like LGBTQ coded character. So it's just like, why are you having this person say it? Because it's just like, you know. But anyway, so that is like one thing that like I would actually kind of appreciate an update if it makes sense. So yeah. Sorry, I thought you had something more to say after that.
nope.
But yeah, so that's happening, and it's basically up for pre-order now, like in all main retailers in the US. So like if you haven't pre-ordered yet, go do that, because this game needs all the support it can get. Um and then also they shared that the collector's edition from Limited Run is going to be revealed soon. I don't know if that's going to be during like the Limited Run showcase in the summer. That's probably where you should expect it. But yeah, cool thing. I'm shut up and take my money. That's where I'm at with that. Shut up and take my money.
Something awesome to get in 2027. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Speaking of more trails, NIS America has officially revealed that they are working on the next Trails game, Trails Beyond the Horizon. Um, this is basically the Kaino Kiski game that came out in Japan last September. And it's coming to Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC in fall of 2025. This is the year of Trails, baby. This is the year of Trails. We're getting three
It's
Trails
happening.
games.
Yeah.
We're getting three Trails games in a single year.
Wild.
So yeah, for those that are up to date, let's go, baby. Let's go. And also shout out to whoever it was in the YouTube comments that was just like, hey, you forgot to mention this last week. That was on me, y'all. It was a lot of Switch 2 stuff, so I was caught slipping. Yeah, so that is our news for the week. So we're gonna get into what we've been playing for this week. I have really only been playing Legend of Dragoon, and I'm not going to talk about that on this podcast. Campfire Catalog. But Kevin, you have played a good chunk of Rusty Rabbit.
I sure have. That
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, have you ever played a game that is so aggressively like fine? Like you
Yeah.
play a game and you're just like, yeah, this is a game that I'm playing. And that's
Yeah.
almost like where the criticism ends. Now, like it okay, so for people that don't know, we've talked about the game a little bit, from previews and stuff that we've seen. I did get the opportunity to play it early thanks to a code. So, thank you to them to send that out to us. I did not finish it, but I got to near the very end. I was like just on the cusp there. Uh, and, I'm probably going to push my way to the end because I'm so close. But I certainly wouldn't say this is like one of my favorite things I've played this year. I hesitate to just like call it bad. It's just very okay in a lot of ways. So this is a 2D platforming. I hesitate to call it Metroidvania. I've seen a lot of people use that term for it, and I'm like, yes, but is it?
Action platformer.
Yeah, action platformer. Like there are some light Metroidvania like elements, but it feels more adjacent than like focus. Because like for instance, when I think Metroidvania, I think like, oh, big map that I'm gonna be, going back and forth through, and I need to backtrack to somewhere. Whereas this, you can backtrack because there's stuff you can open up that you like couldn't your first time through, but it's all optional. Like, oh, there was like 3 chests on this stage that I couldn't get to before, and now I can. And it's not like stopping you from actually progressing the game. Like, it's a very linear level structure of just like, go to this level, finish it up, and get this item that then lets you go to this level, then get to the end, and that opens up a portal that goes to this level. It's a very linear progression, for the most part. Uh, so yeah, 2D action platformer. A heavy focus is how you are kind of like excavating. You're playing this rabbit who is voiced by the same voice actor as Kiryu from Yakuza, which is fantastic. Honestly, most of my enjoyment from this game was just hearing him be this like tired, ornery old rabbit in this like post-apocalyptic ice world. Like conceptually, there's so much about this game that I want to be excited about because it is a wild pitch. Like, it's like an ice age. Humans are gone. Rabbits rule the world. They think Peter Rabbit is basically the Bible. Like they use McGregor as a slur, or like as like saying the F word or saying like Satan. Like they're like, oh, these freaking McGregors over here, because they're talking about like the farmer. Like that's like saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the
That's
devil.
amazing.
Yeah, like there's all this like it's such a fun, quirky like world and concept, and then the actual gameplay execution is just so okay.
Mhm.
Like combat, for instance. So you have 4 different weapons that you'll over time unlock. You start off with a drill, and then you later on get a gun, which is kind of like a shotgun. It's very like mid-range, spread fire kind of pattern. A sword, where you have like a longer reach than the drill, but you do like a more kind of like quick little combo. And then a hammer, which is like you swing, it deals a lot of damage, but then you have to wait a while to swing it again. And enemies have like weaknesses to specific weapons, so there's this kind of encouraging of like figuring out what weapon to use for different enemies. Uh, but none of them really feel that great to use. There's a stiffness in a lot of the motion. One of the things it does that bothers me a lot is that most of the melee weapons also carry you slightly forward, like you take a slight step. And because the game has collision damage with enemies, that means there's a lot of times where you're just gonna like, I'm trying to like unload and deal damage to this boss, and then suddenly I got too close to them and I get hit and take damage. And it's not as
Mm.
much as like getting actually attacked, but it's still frustrating. Um, there's also a very heavy emphasis on enemies being able to inflict status effects on you, and for the most part, those are fine. Like, oh, I'm slowed down for a little bit, or I can't use my boosters for a little bit. The one that I hate with undying passion is impairment. Impairment reduces your damage output to like a quarter,
Okay.
and there's a lot of enemies that inflict it. And it lasts like, I mean, you can get upgrades and things to reduce the time, but the default time it lasts is like 30 seconds. And
Ooh.
so you'll be like fighting a boss, and if it happens to be one of the bosses that can inflict impairment, it's just like, oh great, I got hit by this thing, and now I'm doing like 4 damage a hit, and I'm just waiting for that timer to go down. And it's like it's just not like a fun or interesting thing. It just makes the combat take longer.
Mhm.
Like restricting my movement, sure, that's interesting. That makes me have to rethink how I want to like approach or navigate the boss, or like, maybe be on the defensive for a little bit. Impairment's just like, guess what? You're just not effective for a while. Better wait. um, so that was frustrating. And the game does have this whole like skill tree system thing to improve. And there are some interesting ideas there. Like you level up from defeating enough enemies and destroying blocks, and you get skill points to invest in like, getting better attack combos, better just raw stats. Uh, but a lot of them are locked not only by level up, but also by additional requirements. And some of the requirements are kind of a headache where it's like, oh, again, impairment, the most annoying status effect. You don't unlock the ability to reduce the time on that until you beat like the second to last boss in the game. So it's like, cool,
Huh.
like this thing I really wish I could invest skill points into. I just can't. Or increasing your max health requires you to destroy so many total blocks across the whole game. So if you weren't paying attention to that when you started and you've just been destroying the blocks you need to progress, it's like, oh, why weren't you destroying every block on every stage you could? Because
E.
then you could invest in health up by now. So just, yeah, lots of really strange, awkward choices to where, like, it's ultimately all playable. And I think if you're the type of person that gets a high off of like map completion and you just want to be able to like, you love exploring every nook and cranny and finding hidden things and like, that's the fun part to you is just digging into that specifically. I think there can be some fun from this. Uh, but like the moment to moment combat itself, not great. Uh, and yeah, it's just like I feel like it's such a fun, weird pitch storyline wise, and there is some
Yes.
interesting stuff storyline wise. Like I think like the dialogue isn't always the strongest, and I think the pacing could be a little faster because it really drags out introducing certain concepts or like getting to the meat of what the story's actually about. It's like 80% of the plot is you know, being this angry old man and just digging at stuff, and you keep running into these annoying kids that you first think might be antagonists, but they're really just other people that keep messing up while you're around. um, and so, yeah, it's just like I feel like there's some interesting ideas that went to like the base pitch and concept for this game, and then I don't know what happened with the actual like game they built to go with it,
Mm.
basically.
Yeah, it sounds like a game that really wanted you to engage with this world, but didn't have the mechanics
Yeah.
set up
It,
to like naturally make the player want to do that.
yeah. Well, and some frustrating weird choices too. Like, so part of the reason why my momentum got broken up near the end is that again, I make my way to like I think it's the second to last stage. Like, it looks like the last stage on the map, but I get the feeling there's like you go one more place after. Um, but I had to stop, or I had to like begin to do other things because that last stage opens up with some blocks that you can only destroy with an upgraded drill. And I had the
Mm.
plans for that upgraded drill because I found them in earlier levels, but it required resources to make that drill that I could no longer like regularly harvest in regular levels. So I had to go to this map randomizer thing they have, which is kind of neat. It's a way to just get extra content out of the game. But like it's really just an awkward way of grinding out materials, but it's not even consistent because you have to land on a specific map type to get the materials you want. So I'm just going through random dungeon maps waiting to get the one I want so I can get 10 of these like I forget what it's called right now. It was like a suspension cable or something. And like I need 10 of
Mm.
them and I get like 2 every time I get that random map. And I'm like, "Great, I just have to keep grinding like random dungeons to get enough equipment to then make the better drill so I can finally get through the last stage." When that was never an issue throughout the rest of the game. Like at no point did I have to go to the randomizer until like at the very end where it's this reminder of like, "Oh, have you been not going to the randomizer? You should go do that." Yeah, just bizarre pacing choices and just yeah,
Damn.
a very okay game that is also frustrating depending on how you play it.
Also, like though, only $20.
That okay, that is fair. That was actually the thing I was going to bring at the end is that like it's $20, which is
Yeah.
like if this was like a $60 game, I think I would be much more like y'all, no, I'm sorry. Like I can't like for $20, I do think it's worth like giving a shot if you just enjoy the genre and you want like another one to play. I wouldn't necessarily put it as like the like, oh, you got to check this out immediately kind of thing, but it is priced accordingly in a way where I'm like, all right, like I can see this being worth $20 to some people.
Cool. Yeah, I it's disappointing to hear kind of based off what you said earlier just because I mean like obviously you want every game to like, be good.
Yeah, of
But like
course.
in particular the whole pitch for this game that we got at SGF last year was just so it ruled. It was like, oh, I totally love this. I love what y'all are going for here. I remember like that was like the game for a lot of the sickos
Yeah.
at
No,
SGF. We were just talking about like, yo, did you see Rusty Rabbit? And everyone's like, yeah, dude.
yeah, because like again, like and, like look, I'm gonna be real. When I saw the early previews, there was definitely that part of me that was like, oh, we're gonna have to see how this combat shakes out, and I don't know how
Yes.
close to final this is. But also, the reason I would check that game out early, and I feel like this is the reason a few people did that, like intentionally, that people that weren't just trying to hit up every demo they could go to, like the people that were like, wait, hold on, what did you say this is? The part of the big grab for this was one, the voice actor again, but
Yes.
two, the game's premise and concept was written by Gen Urabochi, who has done some amazing stuff. I mean, this is the guy responsible for like Madoka Magica, Psychopaths, uh, Incredible Worlds, and like some top tier anime. So you hear that name associated, and ultimately, I don't know how much he really wrote, right? Like it could have been the base pitch and concept, and then someone else took over for like the scenario and such. But that's definitely a name they were like pushing, like, hey, like Gen Urabochi, like helped conceive this.
I do
Um,
feel like he was pretty intimately involved considering he was like at the showings of the game, right? Like I met him. I assume you met him as well.
I did not.
Oh really?
No, he was not at my session. I'm now very sad if that was.
Oh yeah. I was just like, because I know that he was obviously a prominent mangaka, but like I didn't consume any of his work, so
Yeah,
I was like, oh, this is really cool, but I don't know any of your stuff,
yeah.
sadly, or like I haven't consumed any of your stuff.
Well, you should
Yeah,
fix that because he's made some great stuff.
I know he has.
But yeah,
I know he has.
yeah, and
Um,
again, like I think the base pitch and concept of this game is really neat. Like there's some cool stuff, and there is like a mystery layer to it too that I think is very interesting. Um, it just really takes its time getting to some of that meat, and I feel like it doesn't. It takes a little long to get to, and it's not enough of the game to balance out how much time you'll spend just being like,
sure.
I gotta grind some materials or I gotta go do a thing. Like the pacing is just very bizarre to me.
No, yeah, it sounds like similar to what I say about JRPGs and like most games, but like is that story can be really interesting, but if the gameplay doesn't really grab me, I'm likely just going to stop playing. So uh I get it. But thanks for sharing your thoughts on Rusty Rabbit. And again, thanks to them for sending us a code to review it. So very cool. Um Time for the topic of the show. And this one was kind of was helped through one of our patrons. Um we're in the Discord and we were talking about like limited run, and we were talking about like physical, like physical media stuff, and um especially like with the Switch 2 and the game key card being like a
A
thing
thing, yeah.
for the future.
Great,
That
love it. I don't love it.
yeah, he was just like yo, I really want y'all to go talk at length about um limited run games and the idea of like what they do, and kind of like how there's this kind of ongoing negative backlash of limited run, um and just like how they make physical games for games that don't normally get, like, wouldn't otherwise get a physical print. um yeah, so because there are other to be clear, there are other websites, there are other retailers that do this in different ways, right?
Yes.
Like there's I am 8-bit. I am 8-bit is a really beloved, like, kind of indie boutique kind of vibe retailer that does games, it does vinyls, does a lot of really cool shit, but doesn't really get the same kind of backlash that limited run gets. We've talked about before, PlayAsia. PlayAsia gets a lot of the exclusive, like, physical printings of a lot of JRPGs that don't receive physical releases in the West at the very least. Like that's how you get the physical copy of like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, and like Dragon Quest Infinity Strash. There's
The
the
new
list
Saga
goes.
Frontier remaster,
Yeah,
Frontier 2. Yeah.
the new Saga Frontier. Baten Kaitos, like they do a lot of stuff. Um, and that's just one of those things where yeah, we just kind of wanted to open this can of worms and have a discussion about that. Kevin, how are we feeling? What's your stance on limited run? What's your stance on limited run?
I don't uh look, because at the end of the like I try my best not to get too like emotionally invested and heated about who I'm buying things from. Like unless
Mm-hmm.
they are doing something actively that is like bad, bad, bad. Um and so like LRG, I have, like other physical dedicated people, I've absolutely picked up my occasional title from them. Um I can understand where some of the frustration and anger comes from, and I feel like there's a couple different camps for people that have issues with LRG. Uh, Kind of to your point earlier, part of it is I think they are just the biggest established name in that particular game. They kind of serve as a face for the concept of, small batch, limited physical copies of stuff. Um, and I also think their particular method of, they definitely do the kind of FOMO style approach where there is a pre-order lock off date, and if you miss it, it's probably gone. I mean, there's going to be later kind of vault drops, and there's always going to be that thing where later on they realize they have X amount of copies in the warehouse, and so it gets sold some other way. But for the most part, there's absolutely this kind of sense of like, if you want it, pre-order it like now, like that. Otherwise, you know, it's gone. um, and I think also something that draws a lot of frustration is that when it comes to things like their limited editions, those tend to happen very behind, I think, the schedule most people would initially hope for. I think the funny story for me on this one that I always bring up is that I think it was you who brought this up to me. You asked me if I was going to pre-order the Persona 3 Portable Collector's Edition, and my reply was, well, why would I do that when I know I'll be able to buy and play Persona 3 Reload like half a year earlier? That was a joke that ended up becoming true. Like I just said that offhandedly, like, oh ha ha ha, yeah, like I'm not gonna get that thing till whatever year, I'm not gonna pre-order it. And then that is exactly what happened. um and then I think the real actual stuff worth calling out is that there have been a few occasions where the way certain physical copy things were handled was not great. I think the one that a lot of people love to point out is in the case of doing a limited reprint of a 3DO game, they literally shipped like a CDR. Like it wasn't like a proper press disc. It was just like here's your CD-ROM, like with the game on it, and that's not what you want when you're paying a
Yeah.
premium price for something that's meant to be like a method of, both preservation and celebration of older titles.
Yeah.
Uh, and so yeah, there's just stuff that gets frustrating, either because you're a customer that you feel like you're not really getting the experience you want out of your purchase, either because of the waiting time or waiting for everything to ship, delays that aren't really ever fully explained for some stuff like the limited editions, or in that particular case where it's just like, this is I wouldn't have bought this if I knew this was what was going to happen. Like why this?
Yeah. I think there's a few things to talk about, right? Like I think first and foremost, if limited run didn't do this, those games probably wouldn't get a physical release. Period.
Right.
Like, and so it's one of those things like the hate towards limited run on that end, it just is unfounded because it is the publisher of whatever game is coming out, like initially, that makes those decisions on whether or not to print the game or not.
Right.
And so if they don't, that's on them. Like that's where you should be throwing the hate at, not limited run. Um, and when it, and yes, they are definitely not immune or haven't gotten into their own like controversies there. When it comes to the collector's edition side of things, as someone who does buy like has bought a number of collector's editions from them, it doesn't really bother me that it takes a long time because like I think the one thing that they could do, which would be nice for them to do in the future, is that if there is a collector's edition, regardless of how long it's going to take, just send the game ahead of time. Just send the game ahead of time, and then like if there is like a place, I guess, for that game in the collector's edition, just like leave it blank until you get it, and then you already have the game, and then you can put it in there. That way, like at the very least, you're not waiting on the game. Um, but when it comes to the just the way of the production, like for me, it's like it's kind of like the whole Miyamoto quote, I guess, of sorts, where it's just like, oh, you can like release a game when it's ready, and if it's like if it's a bad game, it comes out as a bad game, it'll always be bad. If you wait till it's a good game, it's like that kind of mentality where like, like send it to me when it's done and it's good quality, and I would rather prefer that than them like giving it early and it doesn't have the quality that I expect from them. Because like, say what you will about limited run games or whatever, but the quality of their collector's editions are fantastic. I've never had got a collector's edition from them, and I'm like, oof, this is not good, or like I wish I didn't spend this money on this. Like, that's never happened to me. I like again early like a couple of months ago, I finally got my P3P collector's edition with the Evoker Shadow box, and I I absolutely love it. It's like even cooler in person than when they showed like the concept art that they do for their listings. And I think that with limited run specifically, there are I want to give them credit too, because like they have gotten better about the FOMO model, which they still do use. I want to
Yeah.
make clear they still do it, and I wish they didn't, but they've gotten a lot better about it. Where like they have a they like they go to a lot of cons where they sell their games, and also like thanks to Video Game Plus, like they buy a lot of their stock and then just sell it on their website, so that like if people miss the like the pre-order window, then that gives them the space to like give it like another year. Normally, like it's a pretty extended amount of time where you can get it through Video Game Plus. And granted, that's not like limited run, like just like saying like here, but they're buying that stock. But
Sure.
there are other ways to go about it. Um, and I think also, at least I feel like for certain games, and I don't know what determines this, the pre-order windows are longer. Um, and yeah, I just like I think that they and I will also like put into perspective that like I think that they are not, even though they are growing as a company, of course, like especially from when they started, I don't think they have like the bandwidth to be like, okay, we're just going to publish this. We're going to make this many copies and have the money, or like and have the money to like be like, oh, if this particular game doesn't sell well, we they're just like stuck with a bunch of copies. Because
Mhm.
yes, they publish a bunch of like notable games, right? They've done a lot of Sega Atlas stuff recently. They do a lot of Konami stuff, Way Forward. They have like those bigger partners, but they also publish some random ass games I have never heard of. Like that a very, very niche audience
Mhm.
is going to be excited about. And they can't just like they can't across the board be like, okay, we're going to print this many games for all of our titles, because some of those games are going to sell much better than others. And I just don't think that that makes a whole lot of sense for them, especially because now that they also do it for like all platforms, like, for I am 8-bit, like normally they're just for Switch. Like sometimes they do it for like all systems. It depends on the game, but a lot of the times it's just for Switch. Fangamer also does this too. Um, but normally they're good about doing as many platforms as possible.
Right.
But yeah, I just think that it's not as straightforward as a lot of people think it is when it comes to the aspect of getting these publishing rights to print these games. And I think I'm really curious as to where Limited Run is going to stand once the Switch 2 comes out, right? Like, are these games going to, like, are they going to try and reach out to these companies that may have released the game, but they did a game key card? And they're like, hey, we actually want to print this game.
Yeah,
What can we do to get the rights to actually print this?
yeah, I have seen some speculation and hope for that, especially because, I think the big headache when it comes to game key for a lot of people, like in general, it feels like a weird thing, right? Like it's just like,
Yes,
what is this actually fixing when it's really nothing from a consumer standpoint? It's a benefit for companies selling because it's a way for them to do a physical at a
save
lower
money.
cost.
Yeah,
But like from a consumer standpoint, it's like, what does this? Why would I like? What does this solve? Like, what is the point of this? Um, and the bigger headache is that when it comes to genres that I think bring in audiences that care more about physical, JRPGs is one of the biggest ones. Like, not saying you have to like physical if you're into JRPGs, but more than I would say most genres. Like, I think the average like Call of Duty head guy is not going to care about getting the disc or a digital copy of the game.
no,
I think a lot of people that support like Assassin's Creed don't necessarily care about getting physical for it. But when it comes to like JRPGs, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and all these other titles, there's a lot more care, especially for like long running franchises where it's like, well, I've had physical since like dating back this far for the series. I don't want to stop that yet. Like the shelf needs to keep growing.
yes,
um, and so like so far for Switch 2, a lot of the Game Key games are JRPGs. Like a lot of them.
yep,
We already know the Switch 2 version of Suikoden 1 and 2 Remaster is going to be a Game Key game. Raito Remastered is going to be a Game Key game. Yeah, visual novel, not JRPG, but the next Somnium Files game, that's
yep,
going to be a Game Key game. A lot of Japanese developers seem to be really leaning into this. Nintendo themselves, first party, are keeping their stuff complete on cart, but a lot of Japanese devs are releasing Game Key versions of games, including some where it's kind of like, did it need to be though? Like, I get it if the game's
yeah,
massive and you didn't want to pay the premium for the 64 gigabyte card. Like, I don't love that, but I at least understand that more. There are games getting it where I'm like, this probably would have fit on the regular card. What are we doing here? Like, why was that the choice? um, and it's frustrating. And so, like, I understand where there's that kind of hope, belief, dream that limited run or if any other similar physical manufacturer could like get involved in that process and offer an alternative. I feel like it's less likely in those cases because a lot of devs I think are going to have the reaction of, well, we already have a physical option. Like we already have something on the shelf. Even if it's not, true physical in the way that a lot of people want it to be. Um, but I absolutely see that being like an impediment to being able to uh, have someone like LRG step in.
yeah, uh, yeah, because like you said, like I whenever a new JRPG, like a notable JRPG comes out that is going to be like something that I want to play on the Switch, I'm just like, is there a physical release? Because it's not a guarantee all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
especially with
eh,
like ports and remasters. Like I remember for a while there were a lot
100%.
of Square Enix games were getting physical releases exclusively on their website. Uh, if you wanted to get it, and now they don't even do that for a lot of them. Like again, like Soccer Frontier 2, like that's you have to go through. Uh, you have to go
Play
to
Asia.
Play Asia for that. You know.
Yeah, and so now it's one of those things where like I was so excited for the Switch 2 because I'm just like, oh, yep, everything that I have on my Switch is going to be backwards compatible. Like, and then I'm gonna just build my Switch library from there with the Switch 2. And now that a lot of these games are like game key cards, I don't I don't see myself doing that anymore. Like, if it is a game that is on other platforms physically, I'm probably gonna buy it there instead because like it's not on the cart
Yeah.
and that it just like really
No,
it really sucks.
yeah, I was actually so we probably should have mentioned this earlier, but quick shout out to JRPG Pursuit. I did
I
a
thought about this like
yep
10 minutes ago, and I
yep
was just like, I forgot. I didn't. We didn't
oops
mention it in housekeeping.
yep yeah, but I make an appearance on JRPG Pursuit this week. So make sure to check that out. Give those guys a follow if you have not listened to them before. It's great stuff. And I don't think this was during the main show. I think this was during the kind of post show hangout that we did for their it's not patrons. It's whatever the term is for like the YouTube
They're
service.
members. They're
They're
YouTube
members.
members.
Yeah. Uh, During the post show, Brandon basically said the same thing as you, where he was like, "Oh, I was excited to, I was going to make Switch 2 kind of the home for a lot of my JRPG physicals moving forward, and
Yep.
now I guess it's PS5. Like I don't like if my choice is a game key card on the Switch 2 or a full game on disc for PS5, I guess that's what I'm doing now."
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And well, here's the thing. Maybe because the thing that we still, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't believe we've talked. We have found this information out. Like, what happens when the Switch shop closes? Like the Switch 2 shop closes, right? Like, does the game key card will it recognize that download regardless in the
So
future?
tech
Or
okay, so we don't we're the bad answer here is we're not really going to know that until that day comes.
yep,
The conjecture that I would make based on how things have been handled in the past is that traditionally being able to download game data is separate from commerce, like having to buy it in the first place. For
okay,
instance, the 3DS, you cannot access the eShop anymore, but you are
yeah,
able to actually still re-download things that you've purchased. That is still an option. So
yeah,
the logic would follow similarly that as long as that like database side exists where the server supporting those game files continues to exist, the game key card should work just fine. And
mm,
presumably that will be a longer lasting thing in the future than like the shop. Like the shop will go down and then that's something that will continue to persist, but it's not going to be, I would not imagine it would be an infinite length of time, right? And you can argue
mm,
there's a certain cutoff point where it's like, how much does this actually matter outside of a handful of people that are going to yell like us?
yeah.
But like, what is that? Yeah, like what is that timeline? Like, is our game key cards fully functional for the next 10 years? The next 20? Like, we just don't know because it's at the mercy of how long Nintendo supports that.
Yeah, yeah, and so like assuming that is the case, it's just like I probably like with the exclusives, it's gonna happen. Like Bravely Default, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna buy the Switch 2 game key card. I'm gonna keep my 3DS version just in case.
Yeah, if there's no
But
other
like,
option.
but yeah, but again, like with like a lot of Atlas's stuff recently that did come to Switch as well, like SMT5 and SMT5 Vengeance. Like, I bought an Xbox copy, but I also bought a Switch copy because but now like I'm gonna buy an Xbox copy for Rideout, and then I'm probably not gonna buy a Switch 2 copy of Switch 2 copy like I was
Sure.
originally like in the mindset of doing.
I, Look, man, to be honest, I don't even know if I'm buying the exclusives when I think about it. Because it's like
Really?
you know, I'm paying the same amount of money for a game that has ultimately the same long-term restriction of a digital game. It's not tied to my account, but it is tied to, whether or not the servers continue to exist. While also having the downsides of a physical copy where I have to make sure the cart is inside to do the license check and let me play the game. Uh, all while also, slightly more vain, less functional point, having a box that is now half covered in text that I don't like the look of. Um, it feels like a rougher sell to me. Like there's absolutely that part of my dinosaur brain that's like, but physical. But it's like, is it really worth it in this particular instance?
Is that your mindset for all Switch 2 games or just the game key cards?
Just the game key cards.
But okay,
Yeah.
so like you're gonna get like Donkey Kong and you're gonna get like
Yeah,
all the
because those
first
are complete
party
on
like
because those are complete on
yeah.
cart and the
Okay,
box
okay,
doesn't have a
okay.
whole bunch. Yeah, yeah, no, I like as long as the physical is truly physical, that is going to be my default. But when it's something that has the potential, to not actually be viably long lasting because of requirements on Nintendo Switch servers, uh, and still has the downside of I need to physically swap carts to be able to play the game. Like, it just feels like I'm getting the worst of both worlds,
Sure.
and an ugly case to boot.
I,
It
I,
is
I,
rough.
I I get it. I get it. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how the Switch 2 and like LRG and like all those other sites are going to kind of play with that. I just don't know if LRG is going to go the route of like, hey, he like here are games that don't have any physical release, or hey, this game that didn't get a proper physical release, we are doing that for y'all. Um, that would be nice. And even if that did happen, I don't see that happening until like much further down. Like this would be like years after like let's just use Bravely Default for example. This will be years after Bravely Default has sold. It's basically like you can't buy a game key card anymore. It's it's all just like third party market at this point. At that point, I could see it potentially happening. Um, and I just and it's also just like I hope that these companies just don't do it for all of their games, right? Like I can kind of understand if it was like Bravely they did it for Bravely Default, but then they don't do it for like 7 remake or you know, like the next Dragon Quest game or something like that. Uh we would have to see about that, but yeah, I appreciate what LRG does. Again, their formula is not perfect. It's not the ideal situation, but again, at the end of the day, would you rather have something or nothing?
Sure. And I think a lot of people, I mean, look, here's the thing, right? A lot of people complain about the shipping times and handling of getting the thing, but the only reason they're able to complain about that is that they're buying it in the first place, right? Like that,
Yeah,
like the money is flowing. And yeah, I agree. Like at the end of the day, personally, like I like having the option more than not at all. Uh, but at the same time, like you can still want a better system to be in place. Like,
100%. I just feel like that the people that complain, like they complain in a way that it sounds like that LRG is like the devil, like that they're just the worst company, like
yeah,
and things like that. And I just for because I'm not again I'm not knowledgeable about everything like with the things outside of just what they do as a company, like any of the like drama or anything like that with the employees in the past. Like I know that there was some stuff, I don't know the details. That is its own thing. But
yeah,
just as a company that publishes these games, prints these games that wouldn't normally get a physical release, unless they go to somewhere like I am 8-bit or PlayAsia or Fangamer, or some of the smaller companies like Shrimp, like Strictly Limited or Super Rare. Like I would rather it exist than not at all.
right.
And I think that, if you should kind of like put that into perspective when you see the next game that LRG announces that you want and you're like frustrated that you have to pay them money because it's just like you would be paying someone else money anyway if there was a hypothetical physical.
Sure.
So, but yeah, that's our topic of the show for this week. Again, go to JRPG Pursuit to listen to Kevin on the latest episode. It should be out by the time this episode drops publicly. Um, if not, just keep an eye out on that channel, whether it be YouTube or your podcasting services of choice. Um, that is it for our episode this week. Uh, we normally I've been forgetting to mention this at the end of episodes because I'm just
Uh-oh.
so used to like the video version because we're seeing each other.
Right.
But you know, we have socials. You can follow us on you can follow me at Cam Final Mix on your social of choice. You can follow Kevin at Kevin Kenson. Alliteration is in his favor, which is why it's just his name. And yeah, so you can follow us there. That's where we really like post stuff nowadays. Like we started with like respective party chat channels, but it just seemed unnecessary after a few weeks. I was like, I feel like we should just post this on our own socials and we're good there. Kevin, do you have anything that you wanted to say before we dip out?
No, not today. I think we're good.
Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, I'm Cam, that's Kevin, and we'll talk to you later.
Later.